going on out there, peeps? So I want to give a shout out real quick to Trish, who sent me this video. The video is long, so I broke it up into parts. You have a group of 3 people talking about med beds. They touch on NESARA, GESARA for about 1.2 seconds. Now, when I first heard this interview, the first impression was, oh my goodness, I didn't even make it past but 5 minutes because I'm not into that hokey pokey, star traveling, any of that crap like that. I'm not into it. But if I'm being honest, I came full circle and I said, hey, let's listen to hear what they have to say. And I have to be honest, a lot of things that they're talking about, my friend Robert Dean told me about. So they were lucky enough to grab my attention. Now, you might think these people are kooky because you got one person saying he's 330 years old, another person who says they're a star traveler, and another person who said they served on Mars. But there is some validity, believe it or not, to what they're saying. So we're going to do a reaction video. It's broken up into like 4 or 5 parts. They are going to talk about med beds, but not from a perspective of NESARA, GESARA, but just from the perspective of what they've done in their lifetime. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. Before we get started, hit the thumbs up button, because when you do, it helps us get past the algorithm that YouTube puts on us and keeps us from being shadow banned. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. The disclaimer here is I'm not a financial advisor, a lawyer, or an accountant. The information that I share with you, I do freely. It is of my own opinion. Hey folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings in their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor, protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash, as well as inflation. That's right, head on over to Money Metals when you want to buy gold and silver. Keep in mind, if you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. Hey, right now, a special offer for my audiences only. You have a chance to win 100 free American Silver Eagles. That's over $3,000 in value. And all you have to do is enter your email to win. That's it. That's right, there's no obligations to purchase. The link is down below in the description, so head on over there, enter to win. You have between now and December 31st of this year to enter. The only way you can for sure not win 100 silver American Eagles is by not entering at all. So do yourself a favor and enter your email so you have a chance to win. People keep asking me, where is the link, Pimpy? It's real simple. If you're at my page on YouTube and you're watching any of the videos, any of them, you see the video here and you scroll down, see my name right here? If you go here where it says show more, you click it. Here's all the links to the things you have access to. If you want to enter into the competition to win 100 free medals, just click it right here and it'll take you to the website where you can sign up. If you want to buy and own physical gold and silver, just click this link right here and it'll take you to the Money Metals website. And if you're thinking about buying cryptocurrencies, just scroll on down and see the word Coinbase. Click this and it'll take you over to the website that you can sign up for. So you can buy Shiba, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin. For those of you looking for my address, there it is right here. As everyone is aware of an alternative website, the link is down below in the description. Over here I post original content as well as other videos that have been banned from YouTube. It costs $3 a month to join for unlimited access, and all proceeds go to finding life's purpose. So come on over there and join us. Beware of scammers. That's right, people posing and pretending to be me. How you can tell us apart is real simple. If you post a comment and I respond, you will see a dark circle around my name. See this? It's either gray or black. I won't be sending you to WhatsApp, and I won't be sending you to Telegram or Telegraph or anything like that, nor would I be asking you for money. From time to time, I will be using material that's considered copywritten. I post this just to show that I am exercising my fair use rights. So here we go. Again, you guys, it's not really necessarily about NESARA, GESARA, but it is tied into it. These people are going to talk about med beds and then some. So we're going to do a reaction video to what they're saying. At first, I was turned off and I wasn't going to do this. But as I listened to their videos a little bit more, I said, oh, I can validate some of these things. So let's get into this, shall we?
All right. Is everybody able to see that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's go take it to the next one here. Some of our presenters, we've already gone into this. I guess the only thing you got here is Ileana worked in the cybernetic.
Okay, here you go. This is, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, good Lord, no. I'm not interested. Let's get past this. After watching this entire interview, I've decided I would love to have a chance to talk to James or Ileana. James is claiming to be a 330-year-old veteran of the SSP. Now, I've heard about the SSP in the 90s from my friend Robert Dean, the CIA. He told me a long time ago that we were already colonized on the moon as well as Mars. What he said was we were mining the moon for helium-3 and colonized on Mars. He said there was the humans. Another type of alien, I don't remember, but the other ones were Dracos. They look like lizards. Very strong. If you ever seen the movie Jupiter Ascending, they have a great version of who the Dracos are in there. Again, my friend is CIA. He even warned me to take everything that he says with a grain of salt. It's weird how now all of a sudden, a lot of these people are coming out. James isn't the first SSP soldier I know about. And I've been hearing about this since the 90s. But of this entire interview process, the one person who is impressive to me is Ileana. When she starts giving out her information, she isn't like, yeah, you know what I mean? She gives her answers quick, precise, and very detailed. So there's something about her that catches my attention. She's another person I would love to interview. So let's get into this.
And holographics and neurobiology labs over there on Mars. All right, so the reason I'm bringing this drawing, or I guess you could say computer animated image of a med bed from the Prometheus movies, because I did this a similar presentation back in 2019, and I was getting a lot of flack from people complaining about, I told everybody this is a med bed, and it's like, oh, well, that's from the movie Prometheus, it's not a real med. So it's what a med.
Okay, I can seriously relate to what James is saying. I've used a picture as a prop to just trying to prove a point. Just so I could prove a point, I used a picture, and everybody's like, oh, that's from so-and-so. It's like, you're missing the point. It's not about the picture. I'm just trying to help you get a visual of what it is I'm talking about. I didn't say this picture came from specifically what I'm talking about. I only used it as a prop. So what James is saying, I understand.
Med bed, the first gen of med beds would look like. Now, the reason why this is important, for, at least to bring this particular image up, is because the Alien series movies were actually smuggled out of Senator Robert Byrd's office. And this was back in the late 70s, 79, 78, which was based on a real SSP disclosure event. So that whole...
Okay, so Robert Byrd is the longest serving senator, served 50 years as a Democrat. He served as an open member of the KKK. Yeah, that's the guy they're talking about. The reason why there's some credibility to what they're saying is this. For those of you who are fans of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, the guy who created Star Trek, told everybody they came up with the idea when he was visited by aliens, and they told him about what to put in the shows. Now, J.J. Abrams did not want to take him over because he was getting ready to do Star Wars. And they were like, hey, you got to take over Star Trek. He's like, I'm not interested. Then J.J. Abrams came out and said, look, I'm going to do Star Trek because he was approached by aliens. Yep. Do the Google work. Find out for yourself.
Movie series, the Nostromo, and evidently the xenomorphs are real extraterrestrial life forms. I don't have any other information on that. I mean, Ileana, if you have some information on xenomorphs, you're welcome to share it now. If not, we'll just go ahead and move on.
Well, I have information on this particular first gen holographic medical pod, and that is the old style medical pod. It's the first generation, and that runs purely on holographic technology. So
again, I'm going to give you some credibility to what she's saying. I've said this several times in my video. This I know for a fact. For every 1 year that we, the mass public, advance in technology, our military advances 44 years. So think like dog lives. For every 1 year, it's 7 to them. So when it comes to technology, for every 1 year that we advance, it's 44 years for our military.
it's not really plasma even or crystalline. It's just holographic technology, and it has some laser stuff connected to it for healing. So that's in my earlier presentations as well. So this is actually what it looked like, not just in the Prometheus movie, but in real life. That's how it looked like. So I recognize that. That's an old medbed technology. So it's not the newest or latest one. So it's first gen, like you said, James.
Okay, well, let's move on here because we got lots of slides to go through here. So I went ahead and put together a timeline based on some of the research that I've done. And some of it's projected, as you can tell, once we get to 2022. But the projections are dependent on, well, I'll just get to that just a bit. Let's start off in 41. So I believe it would have been August 21st, 1941. The Germans signed an exclusive 80-year treaty with the Draco, which allows them to control Earth's technological development in exchange for 100 acres on the moon. And so I guess they did that because maybe they felt they were cornered in a wall during World War II there. But so the Draco were in charge of humanity's development. So let's go to 1942. Upon Nikola Tesla's death, well, he died in 43, but in 42, 41, he was working on the Noose bell, which is we're going to go into the Noose bell in just a bit. It was a prototype of Diglocka he was building in the basement of the New Yorker hotel, which would take away all disease, aging, and hunger. And then let's move forward to the 50s. So the Germans get the Germans in the SSP, that is, this would be the Antarctic Germans that are now on Mars and on the moon. But they got a hold of medbed tech from the Draco. And I've got, that was Dr. Gabriel. We're going to go into Dr. Gabriel's content later on in the presentation. And then in 1967, medbed technology was developed in the U.S. By TRW from 67 to 71. And that's according to Dr. William Tompkins. We're going to go a little bit in Dr. William Tompkins just in a bit later.
Oh, can I interject something?
Sure.
So TRW is actually on my list of affiliates for Planetary Corporations. So Planetary Corp worked with TRW to manufacture regenerative technologies and other things. So there's a lot of cross work together with Earth-based companies and Planetary Corp.
Okay, I can't help it. I have to speak on the Dracos real quick. My friend Robert Dean told me in the 90s that we had already been colonized in Mars. He told me there were humans, along with another alien species, and the Dracos. I said, what are the Dracos? He said, they look like dragons. I said this earlier in this video, and that is, you got to watch Jupiter Ascending. Okay, the Dracos aren't in there. So Hollywood has a way of trying to introduce to you in a certain kind of way the truth while making it look like it's fake. Okay? So whether you believe this or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, hey, the information I got does does align with what they're saying about the Dracos.
On Mars, yeah.
All right. So then let's go flash forward to 74. So this would have been, I guess, the late 60s, early 70s. Anton Priory's magnetic Bordeaux machine. So he was using EM fields to time reverse cells. And so that technology was shut down, and the Cabal took it over. So we'll go into more about that. But yeah, he actually reversed aging of mice. And he was about to build a human-sized prototype, and they shut his funding down. So in 1980, that's when Solar Warden came on board, and the Reagan administration was shocked at how advanced the German SSP become, and that was because of the Voyager series craft. They were spying on the Germans on the off-world colonies, and that's when the Cabal realized they had a huge problem. They were nowhere near technologically advanced as the Germans were, so they had to set up their own. They set up their own program. But I mean, if you follow Dr. William Tompkins, you know that Solar Warden existed prior to 1980. It just was a different name, but this is when those were incorporated or brought into being. So roughly around 91, the Cabal signs a treaty to join a joint venture with the German groups in ICC. And yeah, you have to go check out the SSP 101 if you really want to learn about this. But let's move on here. So we know, at least according, some of the research I've done, NESARA was stopped in 2001 by the Bush Senior Destruction of World Trade Center and Pentagon. So they wanted to stop the releasement of advanced medical technologies, amongst other things, the new monetary system. So we would have had all this, but you know.
This is the one and only time they really talk about NESARA GESARA, which was interesting. So these people are technically talking about. They are technically talking about just med beds alone, which I like.
There's people out there that don't want you to have it. Or I say people in quotation marks. If you consider Bush Senior a person, I consider him more of a reptilian. But Northrop Grumman acquires TRW in 2002. So now, yeah.
So you hear people talk about the Bush family being reptilian. So a woman named Kathy O'Brien, who wrote a book exposing how, as a child, she was bought by famous people. She was a sex slave. She talked about a one-time incident where she was around Reagan, and Bush was there, and so was Cheney. Anyways, she was talking about one of the things they did was they had this great holographic technology. She said it was really advanced. To scare people, what they used to do is use it, lean forward, and they would look like lizard people, is what she said. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about and are curious, go onto YouTube and search for Kathy O'Brien, The Transformation of America. It's an ebook, and listen to what she's saying. So, as much as they want to call Bush and them the reptilians, according to Kathy O'Brien, they use holographic technology to look like aliens. But now, having said that, princes die called the royal family the lizard people. Yep.
Northrop Grumman is also on my list. That Planetary Corp was an affiliate of Planetary Corp and still is.
Yeah. Raytheon is also connected with, of course, with Space Force. Those two are working together. Then, so we're going to flash forward to 2019. Space Force is created, and they sit on the executive committee of ICC. So ICC stands for Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. For those of you who don't know, they're basically like the umbrella organization over all these other German breakaway groups. Some German, some not. But now, of course, Space Force is on sitting committee, so the Americans are there too. And so Space Force is, and that's where the term alliance comes from. Alana, I know we disagree on the necessarily the usage of this. Who is this alliance?
Okay, I will tell you this. Robert Dean said there was two groups of people that were alien life forms. Some good, some bad. He said the good people were called the Alliance. And you're going to hear Ileana talk about it. Her version of what I was told in the 90s is what I heard. The bad people came from what was known as the Orion group. They were the bad people. So she's talking about a group of Alliance, which is a compilation or I shouldn't say compilation, it's a compilation of different groups of alien species that form this alliance. And their job is to overwatch us here on this planet. So you're going to hear her version of it, and I will tell you this. It does match up with what my friend Robert Dean told me in the late 90s.
But I believe I would probably put Space Force in what is known as the Alliance.
Well, I call it the Space Alliance. I don't call it the other name for it because it's not specifically correct to Space Alliance, because Space Alliance works with all of these groups to make sure everybody's in line and that they're not fighting with each other, that everything is coordinated correctly, that Earth's interests are represented in these groups now, that it's not all, infighting, and so not pulling the blanket over to each other. They have to now share certain resources. That's what the Space Alliance is there for, to help with that, to make sure everything is going smoothly and that everybody's rights are represented. So that's what I know about this alliance, and it's also works with the Space Force and U.S. Space Command as well.
Okay. Let's move on here to 2021. So August 21st, 2021 is that the Draco Treaty has come to an end. And as far as I'm aware, the Space Force has not gone into another treaty with the Draco. I think that's pretty much done. So we are in uncharted territory. So remote viewing is what we're getting these projections. Well, at least, I mean, I know Lana and I, we disagree necessarily in this timeline, but the medbed rollout is dependent on the new monetary system coming online. So until that happens, basically we're not going to see medbeds. But we got, let's see here, to 2023. By the way, I'm hearing an echo. Maybe Dr. Johnny, maybe try to mute your mic unless you.
Oh.
Yeah. See if that goes away. There we go.
I just muted.
Yeah. So
I just muted and I'll mute again.
Yeah, if you want to interject, otherwise we're getting a little feedback. Okay, so this again, these are all projections, and like I said, everything is subject to change. I mean, if nobody does anything, none of this is going to happen. But I mean, that the goal of this is kind of to change the timeline so this can happen. But yeah, so 2023 we'll have new centers being built because the hospitals and all that's going to be going away, along with the doctors that chose to get what. I'm not allowed to say it. 2024 Gen 1 models are going to come online, and those are going to be used for healing tissues and diseases. Gen 2 will be able to heal the psyche as well as tissues and diseases, and Gen 3 is does etheric level soul healing and modification. Okay, so let me go ahead and let me get out of this just a moment here. Does anybody have any questions?
Well,
I'm glad you present. Go ahead.
Yeah, my projected timeline, Planetary Corp is supposed to give medbeds to Earth by 2080, 2100. So it's quite a ways off, according to Planetary Corp's timeline rollout for holographic medical pods. So it like different programs have different varying timelines, I think, for when things are supposed to come out. So it's going to be interesting what actually happens by 2027 to see if medbeds roll out or not. So that's kind of like what James was meaning, my difference of the timeline in terms of the dates and his timeline stuff.
Okay, great. Let me go ahead and pull this up one more time. So is everybody able to see this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so here's a summary of what we're going to go into. I'm not going to go. Might as well let's just go ahead and hit it. So I'm not going to explain all this because we're going to go explain it anyway. So let's just. Mm-hmm. So oppositional. So I put these slides together for people out there who are totally new at this, and maybe you're not aware of why they would want to suppress technologies like this. But I just want to give people a perspective. So, I'm from the U.S., so this information is going to be reflected based on a U.S. point of view, although I know, Ilana, you're in Canada, but a lot of this is very similar throughout the world. So at least here in the U.S., 18% of the GDP is going into healthcare. So if we could have medbed technology the this would basically be cut down to zero. It's basically like calling a cable repair guy if you have a health issue. So here's a chart that I found on the internet here about the gross domestic per capita spending. So at least in the United States, it's $11,000, and this is in 2020 per man, woman, and child. So that is.
I'm not seeing anything.
Oh,
I'm just still seeing timeline projected at the calendar. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, let me try this again. Sorry, folks. Let me just. I'm going to share my entire screen, and let's see if this works better. Do you see
Yeah.
Okay, so this was that chart, by the way. Everybody couldn't see, as you see, 18%. Here we are in 2021. So let's go on to, here's the GDP. I'm sorry, U.S. capital per spending, and you can see other countries. Here's Canada and Europe. So this will basically be brought down to zero. All right, so med beds would also serve to destroy much of the current entrenched medical care system and put a lot of people out of work. Although, my heart doesn't necessarily believe in any of these folks, but putting new value. Yeah, so if these companies can innovate, such as introducing CRISPR gene editing technologies or therapeutic cloning technologies, maybe they could survive. But I have a feeling Pfizer is going to have some problems pretty soon. So is Johnson & Johnson. And Merck is actually part of the secret space program apparatus. They have been implicated with taking super soldiers, and after they were this was part of the Heather material. They would reanimate dead soldiers that were coming out of Iraq and experiment on them to try to convert them into super soldiers, but the project was terminated, and they converted all of them instead to pharmaceutical grade omega-3. They put them in a vat and killed them again.
And Merck is actually on my list of Planetary Corp affiliates as well, and so is Pfizer. And Pfizer knows about the bioweapons mass production of viruses and stuff that happens in the DUMS basis and off-world. So there's an association with planetary corporations, both Pfizer and Merck. Not surprising.
So they probably have access to weaponized viruses that come from off-world as well, and maybe AI nanoparticulates.
Yep, they do. That's why Pfizer, if something hits us with a virus, Pfizer is going to be the first to get the dibs to mass produce a vaccine cure, like they did now. Or,
yeah,
you know what?
We can't say that word on here.
Yeah,
so.
We're not saying that word, no.
So let's move on here. Medbeds can theoretically extend life indefinitely. Immortal lifespans could potentially bankrupt life insurance premiums and pension payment plans, which are mathematically geared to anticipate your death. So as a result, financial institutions and government regulators will probably oppose the introduction of medbeds until an overhaul of the financial system or what it means to be human is redefined. So here you can see how much money Social Security dumps on each person. Now, if you are subscriber to this channel and you've seen some of my past work, then you already know that we already have birth certificate bonds, and there's billions of dollars in each one. So the amount of money they give us in Social Security is just a little tiny drop, and the rest they just send off world for their secret space programs. But yeah, so I guess all that needs to get rewritten in how that money is distributed to be more equitable, I think. So anyhow, let's move on to the next slide. So there are many secret societies and fraternities who view themselves as guardians of the human race and look down at so many low conscious people as cattle and useless eaters. Now, I'm not saying that I feel, I'm just trying to tell you what some of these secret societies feel or think. So they think Earth is overpopulated, which we listeners of the show probably are aware that there's technologies that basically doesn't mean this planet is overpopulated if they could release these technologies. But they consider the introduction of immortality healing technologies upset of their depopulation agendas. So essentially they want to control us. They don't really care. whether we're alive or not. They can't control us if we go through a mass awakening of this many people on the planet.
Or a mass healing with the holographic medical pods, med beds, whatever you want to call it, because it's basically removing the medical system completely and all reliance on doctors and administrators and hospitals too.
Okay, moving on here. So we've got introduction of medbed technology must correspond with introduction of space travel and free energy to allow humanity to expand and grow beyond the borders of planet Earth. I'm sure there's probably some extraterrestrials out there that might be a little concerned about that sentence, but they're going to have to grow up too, just like humanity, and accept the change. This is partly why Space Force was funded. They have been tasked with a jurisdictional project manager of Earth's emergence into a Class 1 breakaway civilization as defined by the Kardashev scale. So, all right, let's just go ahead and... Okay, so now we're going to go in a little bit some of the early research of regeneration tech, and or at least the theory of how we can regenerate our bodies. And this goes back to early research goes back to Harold Burr, and he was a professor at Yale University, and he actually came up with the idea of the L field, which is like an etheric field. That's okay. The universe which we find ourselves is a place of law and order, not chaos. It is organized, maintained by electrodynamic field, which he, like I said, referred to as the L field, capable of determining the position and movement of all charged particles. Now, if you just lost me with what I just said, let's just go a little bit more here. So imagine that this L field or electrodynamic field that's all around us is the glue that holds our body together. So, yeah. So, Doctor, yes, somebody want to comment?
Yeah, it's part of the ether.
Okay. Dr. Johnny, are you familiar with Burr's work? Did you?
I don't know Burr's work, but he's referring to the ether and that's a property originally by Mendeleev, who did the first, periodic table of elements. He was a Russian, and hydrogen won the first element. It was ether. But the deep state took ether out, and ether had, hydrogen has an atomic number of 1, and ether has an atomic number of 0. But ether, permeates everything we know, and so when he's talking about that field, that's, terminology should be said ether. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay.
Yeah, or the electromagnetic field around our body, because we're 85% crystalline water-based as well, and we have an electromagnetic frequency around our body, which powers the body and gives us energy. So that can be considered as part of the L field as well, what's around this body, the energy field.
Okay, so yes, and this is an important concept because later on you're going to see how these med beds work. But Robert Becker reconfirmed some of Burr's work by applying DC current and silver ions to reactivate the stem cells, regenerating salamander tails, and healing human bone fractures. He also was working with fingertips, and that's where this would come in. He would use a nanoampere of electricity on the marrow of amputated legs of rats and managed to obtain partial regeneration of the limb. This included a complete and well-organized regeneration of bone, cartilage, muscle, blood, and nerve tissue. So, so the cells differentiated and they became new finger cartilage. So I'm trying not to do too much macabre stuff here, but that is a regenerated fingertip of a child. He found that in the 1970s, study shows children up to the age of 10 or so would lose fingertips in accidents and can grow back the tip of the digit within a month, provided their wounds were not sealed up with flaps of skin. So here's some more about differentiation. We need to activate the stem cells, and it grows new embryonic cells, and then we get new nerve tissue.
Yeah, all I want to say is ether's like the template or the canvas. And when Elena was saying about our aura, energy field, it's like the paint on the canvas to make that picture of us. In other words, it's like it's like the framework of all of life is the ether. So I just want to mention that. So all this comes right on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like the original genetic blueprint code as well. It's part of this energetic field, and if one is out of balance, so can the other be, and you have to heal both to bring it back into alignment.
So let's go a little bit into re-aging technology and longevity. Is of course, if we could, if we could do a Manhattan Project on aging instead of spending money, another war or something, we could solve a lot of medical conditions. But anyway, but let's go on here. Aging is a result of damage. At least the latest research suggests that what's happening when you age is that damage that takes place to your DNA during cellular regeneration. So imagine your DNA throughout your lifetime. Let's say it gets exposed to stress, or maybe you got cut or exposed to toxins or so on. So your body tries to regenerate your DNA by going to other parts of your DNA, disassembling those healthy DNA and using those building blocks to quickly repair what's damaged. The problem is your body doesn't go back to the areas that were damaged. And as a result, this damaged DNA just continues to grow as like a zombie kind of cells. And that's where you need the senolytics. So we went over that. You get damaged, shorter telomeres over time because of all this damage. And then as well as your natural stem cell production also drops 1% per year. So that's why we typically last only about 100 years. I mean, some people may make it past 100, but the quality of life would quickly falls apart. But stem cell production is regulated by growth differential factor 11. So you can actually find this peptide for about $50 a year supply. It's definitely not FDA approved, but that would go into the studies with the rats. This is FOXY04, but the rat study is where they would take blood from a young rat and inject into the blood of the old rat, and they found the actual peptide was GDF11. That would make they were able to make an old rat young again by doing that, and eventually they had to stop the test because the young rat was trying to bite the head off.
This is when you start getting into adrenochrome. Now, adrenochrome is mentioned in Loathing of Vegas, where Johnny Depp plays Hunter Thomas. So they are taking adrenochrome in there. This is what they're talking about.
For the old rat, but there are companies out there that are trying to do this, harvest blood from young people, but anyway, it's kind of macabre. But the peptide is really cheap. So anyway, does anybody want to comment, or should I go ahead and move on?
Also, stem cells. You can use people's stem cells to regenerate bone, tissue, stuff like that, as well as plasma therapy. It helps with neurocognitive issues and neurological issues. So IVIG and SCIG, intravenous or subcutaneous, it can reverse a lot of the neurological issues. So regenerative technology, it's not just blood, it could be other things, and other than peptides as well. So it's a very interesting field.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a comment. I take my patients down to either Costa Rica or Mexico to get metacyclical stem cells. And, for brain problems like Parkinson's or autism, you can do intrathecal injection into the spinal, or you can get IV stem cells. So anyway, that's not offered in Australia, Canada, or the United States, but in Colombia, Costa Rica, and Mexico, I take my patients down there to get those. And I get them too because I wanted to save my brain when I was forgetting the chemistry that I knew so well for many years. It scared me because I was like, oh my gosh, this Alzheimer's is coming after me, and because once it goes past a certain point, you can't get it back. But if you can catch it before it gets too far, the stem cells are the only thing that clean out the brain. And then that way it brings function back to the brain, so you don't have those dementia issues.
Yeah, and for me, I was using the subcutaneous immune.
You can use silica, SILICA. It's a supplement. I believe that's how you spell it. It's called silica. It removes the metals out of your body.
Globulin plasma therapy and also intravenous, because I had Neuralink implants in my brain, and the nanofiber gold stuff leaked in my brain, the left part, and it created the white matter lesions. So I basically had to do psychic surgery to remove the implants because they're energy core stuff. There's 4 of them in the brain, but it left, once the implants were removed, it left kind of like the scar tissue, the lesions, the scars, and my memory was pretty bad, and I have photographic memory. So the plasma therapy helped to heal the white matter lesion in the brain, and it helped to remove the memory deficits because it was regenerating the neurons and the axons that the nanoparticle gold stuff was attached to from the implants. So it regenerated neurons and axons and regenerated cellular things in the brain to bring things back into alignment in a healthy brain function capacity. So I call plasma therapy regenerative medicine as well. And I still do it every week. I have to for the rest of my life to keep the health quality that I want.
Okay, so in case you guys didn't know this, Dr. Brzezinski, this is a guy that's been curing so-called uncurable cancers. He's got the highest success rate when it comes to curing cancer. He uses the plasma approach. So I did videos on Dr. Brzezinski. I encourage you guys to go look him up. He is in Dallas. He has cured a ton of people from cancer.
Okay, so let's go back into, let me share my screen. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've already explained about activating your stem cells, so that will help regenerate your body. Now we also need to get rid of this zombie cells out, like I said, the damaged DNA and from the telomeres and so on. So there are different senolytics that can do this, and of course senolytics has to do with the science of senescence, which deals with dying and death. So senolytics, I'm gonna just go through a couple of them here, then we need to move on. But Fisetin.
What I need to do is do a review with Doc. Now, remember, Doc has a background in the medical field, and he's dealt with a lot of this stuff. He could definitely give an opinion from a doctor's point of view. He's worked on labs. He's done the first 2 phases of any types of vaccines that are going to be approved. So he knows about these things. And so I'm going to reach out to him to see if he wants to do a reaction video, and we'll go ahead and post it on the other platform.
Is made from strawberries. So Fisetin seems to be much more effective than turmeric. By the way, turmeric is a senolytic, but if that's all you can find is turmeric, you should probably do like a teaspoon a day or so. But Fisetin, if you take 7 grams, it has to be a high dose, a mega dose twice a month. It's not really recommended to take tiny amounts of small amounts on a daily basis because the dosage doesn't get high enough to remove the cells from your body. But there's also a drug, leukemia drug, Dastanlib. I think I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Taken with quercetin has also shown some promise. But I mean, if you want more natural approach, I think Fisetin would be better. Foxio4 is another senolytic that's also highly effective, up to 30% increase the lifespan of rats. But that one that's like $400 a month. So not really recommended. I mean, unless you want, I don't know. You have to inject yourself too. Obviously not FDA approved. C60. I'm going to mention C60 because the study of the rats basically shows, it's a powerful antioxidant based on the shape, the buckyball shape of the molecules. But it is definitely not FDA approved. It's also not patent, so there's no effort to get it. GRAS status from the FDA. Also, there's potentiality it could be contaminated with toxins or AI nanoparticulates. So I don't necessarily recommend C60, but I mean, if it benefits you, go for it. Does anybody else have any comments, or shall I move on?
That was good.
Okay. All right. So reaging. This is actually, I think this was your stuff, Alana, because you actually, I think you wrote some of this, but I'll go ahead and go through it. If we have the correct cellular blueprint, we can bypass the need of senolytics, antioxidants, or stem cell therapy. Holographic medical pods have micro laser and multiple refractory lenses that can manipulate the body's natural chronometer and perform age regression procedures through DNA modification, or even do cross hybridization between human DNA and ET genetics, or mix alien DNA with human genome to create stronger and healthier species of humans. So, I mean, obviously the SSP groups were highly interested in these projects, but maybe not so much here on the civilian population.
Well, they did it on the super soldiers, crossbreeding humans with ET genetics and animal DNA that's another way to augment the super soldiers or SSP personnel assets, to make them faster, to make them stronger, to make them more intelligent. When you do genetic crossbreeding between ET genetics and human, you get a stronger human. You can still look human, but you have ET genetics now mixed beside on top of your human DNA or within the DNA. You can do genetic splicing in so many different ways, and it's beyond the CRISPR technology. It's much more advanced, because they have genetic scanners and splicers that can do this, and they're portable. It takes only like 30 minutes to do simplistic ET human crossbreeding of genetics with that scanner. And you're a human ET hybrid now within an hour. And you can have that permanently added to your genetics, or it could be temporary. It depends on the project and what the purpose is. And the holographic medical pods, they can also.
Do you see what I'm talking about her? Do you see how she answers questions? There's a difference between somebody who's knowledgeable and knows about something and answers questions versus somebody who is not. You can usually tell when somebody has no idea what they're talking about. It's the way they answer the questions. She has been able to answer everything very quickly, precisely, and with detail, which is very interesting.
So they don't just heal things in the body, all diseases and issues in the body. They also do age regression, so they could send you back, like they can work on your telomeres, they can work on the genetic blueprint, cellular blueprint. They could turn that back and reverse the aging process. So you were 36, now they're sending you back to 16, you finished your work in the SSP, so they can age reverse you that way, or in the regen tanks. It can be done in many different ways.
Yeah, we're going to go into that in a little bit more depth in just a bit, but I think whoever this artist is, I think they were probably an SSP experience.
Okay, again, we get into this. So they just mentioned the name NESARA, but never really touched on it. We are talking about med beds and other medical technology. Now, GESARA talks about the release of technology that is not available to the public. The weird thing is, some of the things that they're talking about, I already heard about in the 90s from my friend Robert Dean. It's just that sometimes when you hear things, you kind of blow it off because it sounds way too good to be true, or it sounds like too crazy. So it's interesting to hear them talk about these technologies.
Or whether they realize it or not. So, but let's move on here. So we've got now we're going to go into the zero time reference point. Now I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how this all works, but this is from experiencers that were at Montauk. They report about this, but there seems to be some kind of micro wormhole attachments to the mitochondria of our DNA. At Montauk, if your zero time reference point got lost in hyperspace, you could possibly age at accelerated rate, going from a young man to dead in a matter of hours. In the SSP, the ZTR is modified using temporal electromagnetic or torsion fields created by the body's own natural light frequencies, or they would use laser light technologies. At the end of the 20-year service of your career return program, the ZTR is moved back. I mean, this is for SSP experiences, that is. The ZTRs moved back 20 years slowly, 1 week at a time, as described by...
Okay. Robert Dean told me that we are colonized on Mars. There are 3 species there. One of them is the Dracos. Another one is one that looks a lot like humans. I don't remember the names of them. And then there's humans. He said, so they would send Marines up there. The Marines would actually serve 17-year terms, and then they would retire. The reason why 17, because it takes a year and a half to get there and a year and a half to get back. He said, but if you looked at these soldiers, you couldn't tell that they were 20 years in the military. They had a way of reversing their aging. So this is why this type of thing caught my attention, because everything I heard from my friend Robert Dean a long time ago, they're actually talking about, which is very interesting to me. Now, I'm not sponsoring it, supporting it, or saying it's accurate. I'm just saying that, look, what they're talking about has been told to me by my CIA friend, Robert Dean.
By SuperTech DSF. During this re-aging process, spatial and temporal components of the body are decoupled, making the body immobile. Once the ZTRs reset, the SSP participant is then younger and time traveled into the past and returned moments before they were taken. If the person was in a stasis pod, they would not need drugs to induce a coma to restrict movement. Does anybody want to comment about this?
Yeah, and again, there's the temporal electromagnetic field and torsion fields. We all have that around our body, so that can be manipulated. They can age you backwards in time with the ZTR or forwards in time, so they can make you older as well, not just younger. They can use your temporal electromagnetic field and your torsion fields to do that with, because we're talking about the quantum leap time travel technology that's incorporated into the ZTR to do that. And that's all about manipulating energies and frequencies in the body with the technology. That's how that works. So it has, the reason it's hard to wrap our minds around it, because it's quantum field time dilation frequencies that are used to do all of this, to explain that in more of a simplistic way, I would say.
Okay. Next slide here, some more ZTR information. And folks, just bear with me. It's going to get a little bit more interesting. I know some of these charts, I don't want to necessarily intimidate you, but this is going to be the last slide on the ZTR.
This is a great background, James. You're doing great.
Okay, thank you. So the SSP has a new method which involves the use of age regression drugs, which are extraterrestrial in origin. We're going to get in a little bit more into the drugs in just a bit, but and serums to re-age a person back to the original young state, moving them back and forth within the ZTR 0-point time reference. These serums deliver various isotopes into the human body to change the body's chronometer vibrations in order to be able to control the aging process. Stasis pods are used to realign all the emotional components of the person and to help dampen any memories of any traumatic event that may have happened by lessening the image thought forms of these experiences so they are not horrifying or terrifying to keep remembering after the person has left the service from the SSPs. This process takes about 2 weeks, unless there is severe emotional trauma, then longer. We're going to go a little bit into the more of the memory engram programming in just a bit, so bear with me on that. But theoretically, the re-aging process could activate all of our 12-strand DNA, which humans had naturally during the time of Atlantis. During that time, people lived to be up to 150,000 years years old. So, by the way, some of these people are still alive in Earth, but
there is, again, this is what's so interesting about this. So there's a group of people, they're known as the Brotherhood of the Tat. So they're known to stay as old as they want. They have no limit to how old they can live. They decide when they want to pass on or how long they want to live. Their goal is their job is to keep track of the true origins of humans and all the true history of this planet. They're called the Brotherhood of the Tat. Okay, so I heard about that, again, from Robert Dean in the 90s. So he said they have a way of keeping their age around 30. I don't know why 30 is a magic number, because if you go throughout the Bible, it talks about the age around 30. Jesus was baptized at 30. I mean, it goes on. So there's something about being around the age of 30. And he says, so the Brotherhood of the Tat, what they do is when they keep themselves at a certain age, and the age is usually in the 30s, and they can live as long as they want. They know how to manipulate and control their bodies to keep it from aging.
They actually make leak sedata and super soldiers from this DNA, but that's beyond this conversation, and could live longer with technology if they so desired. These people had many psionic abilities. If we could restore 12-strand ether DNA, then we could have fully active superhuman abilities such as telekinesis, telekinesis, telepathy, levitation, teleportation, and clairvoyance, to name a few. So take what you want from this chart. We're going to have to move on. I don't have time to necessarily go into all the EM wave patterns, but that is part of the time reversal of cells. Does anybody have any other comments or should
Yeah, you're right.
So here it is about this time that I stopped it. So I stopped it there because the presentation is long, and I wanted to break it up in pieces so that it wasn't too long. Again, these people aren't just talking about NESARA, GESARA. They're specifically focused on med beds as well as technology that should have been released to us during NESARA, GESARA. And I thought you might be interested in it. I do. The reason why I'm even breaking it up and bringing it to you and doing a reaction video is because I can just say, hey, look, I've heard about this before. I heard about this in the 90s. I can understand and I can validate based on what I was told by Robert Dean, and I thought you guys might be interested in it. So that's part one. I will break it up because it is long. You guys let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Hopefully you guys like these videos because these three people are very, very informative, especially that Ileana. You can see what I'm talking about. Now, there was a lot of other comments I wanted to make in a video, but I was trying not to interrupt it too much. So, again, let me know what you think. A subscriber named Trish sent this to me. So, I need to find the origins of this because I would really love to find a way to interview these people. So hit the thumbs up button if you're not a subscriber. Please do so because when you do, it helps out the channel and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.